Robert Nesta Marley, born February 6, 1945 and died on May 11, 1981, was a Jamaican singer, songwriter, and guitarist. Considered one of the pioneers of reggae, he fused elements of reggae, ska, and rocksteady and was renowned for his distinctive vocal and songwriting style. Marley increased the visibility of Jamaican music worldwide and became a global figure in popular culture. He became known as a Rastafarian icon, and he infused his music with a sense of spirituality. Marley is also considered a global symbol of Jamaican music and culture and identity, and was controversial in his outspoken support for democratic social reforms. Marley also supported the legalization of cannabis and advocated for Pan-Africanism. Early life. Marley was born on February 6, 1945 at the farm of his maternal grandfather in 9 Mile, St. and Parish, colony of Jamaica, to Norval Sinclair Marley and Style Malcolm. Norval was a white Jamaican born in Clarendon Parish, and whose cousins claimed that the Marley surname had Syrian Jewish origins. This is, however, not conclusive and speculative and was refuted by Marley's biographer. Norval went by the moniker Captain, despite only having been a private in the British at the time of his marriage to Style Malcolm. An Afro-Jamaican then 18 years old, Norval was supervising a subdivision of land for war veteran housing, and he was about 64 years old at the time of Bob Marley's birth. Norval, who provided little financial support for his wife and child and rarely saw them, died when Marley was 10 years old. Some sources state that Marley's birth name was Nesta Robert Marley, with a story that when Marley was still a boy, a Jamaican passport official reversed his first and middle names because Nesta sounded like a girl's name. Marley's maternal grandfather, Omaria, known as Amile, was an early musical influence on Marley. Marley began to play music with Neville Livingston, later known as Bunny Wailer, while at Stepney Primary and Junior High School in 9 Mile, where they were childhood friends. At age 12, Marley left 9 Mile with his mother and moved to the Trenchtown section of Kingston. Marley's mother and Thaddeus Livingston, Bunny Wailer's father, had a daughter together named Claudette Pearl, who was a younger sister to both Bob and Bunny. With Marley and Livingston living together in the same house in Trenchtown, their musical explorations deepened to include the new ska music and the latest R&B from United States radio stations whose broadcasts reached Jamaica. Marley formed a vocal group with Bunny Wailer and Peter Tosh. The lineup was known variously as the Teenagers, the Wailing Rude Boys, the Wailing Wailers, and finally, just the Wailers. Joe Higgs, who was part of the successful vocal act Higgs and Wilson, lived nearby and encouraged Marley. Marley and the others did not play any instruments at this time and were more interested in being a vocal harmony group. Higgs helped them develop their vocal harmonies and began teaching Marley guitar. Marley's mother later married Edward Booker, a civil servant from the United States, giving Marley 2 half-brothers, Richard and Anthony. Personal life. Marley was a longtime member of the Rastafari movement, whose culture was a key element in the development of reggae. He became an ardent proponent of Rastafari, taking its music out of the socially deprived areas of Jamaica and onto the international music scene. As part of being a Rastafarian, Marley felt that Haile Selassie I of Ethiopia was an incarnation of God, or Jah. However, later in life, he ended up converting to Ethiopian Orthodox Christianity and was baptized by Archbishop Abuna Yeshak in the presence of his wife Rita Marley and their children, with the name of Berhane Selassie, on November 4, 1980, shortly before his death. During the time that he was a Rastafarian, Marley supported the legalization of cannabis, or ganja, which Rastafarians believe is an aid to meditation. Marley began to use cannabis when he converted to the Rastafari faith from Catholicism in 1966. Marley was arrested in 1968 after being caught with cannabis, but continued to use marijuana in accordance with his religious beliefs. Of his marijuana usage, Marley said, "When you smoke herb reveal yourself to you. All the wickedness you do, the herb reveal itself to yourself. Your conscience, show up yourself clear, because herb make you meditate. Is only a natural thing, and it grow like a tree." Marley saw marijuana usage as a vital factor in religious growth and connection with Jah, and as a way to philosophize and become wiser. Marley was a Pan-Africanist and believed in the unity of African people worldwide. His beliefs were rooted in his Rastafari religious beliefs. Marley was substantially inspired by Marcus Garvey and had anti-imperialist and Pan-Africanist themes in many of his songs, such as Zimbabwe, Exodus, Survival, Blackman Redemption, and Redemption Song. The latter most draws influence from a 1937 speech given by Marcus Garvey in Nova Scotia. Marley held that independence of African countries from European domination was a victory for all those in the African diaspora. In the song, Africa Unite, he sings of a desire for all peoples of the African diaspora to come together and fight against Babylon. Similarly, in the song Zimbabwe, Marley marks the liberation of the whole continent of Africa and evokes calls for unity between all Africans, both within and outside Africa. Marley married Alfreda Constantia Rita Anderson in Kingston, Jamaica, on February 10, 1966. He had many children. 3 were born to his wife Rita, and 2 additional children were adopted from Rita's previous relationships as his own, and they have the Marley name. The official Bob Marley website acknowledges 11 children. Those listed on the official site are Sharon, born November 23, 1964, daughter of Rita from a previous relationship, but then adopted by Marley after his marriage with Rita. Sadella, born August 23, 1967, to Rita. David Ziggy, born October 17, 1968, to Rita. Stephen, born April 20, 1972, to Rita. Robert, Robbie, born May 16, 1972, to Pat Williams. Rohan, born May 19, 1972, to Janet Hunt. Karen Marley, born 1973, to Janet Bowen. Stephanie Marley, born August 17, 1974, to Rita and Owen Ital Taki Stewart, a former Jamaican soccer player. Nonetheless, Bob adopted Stephanie as one of his own, which entitled her to his estate. Julian, born June 4, 1975, to Lucy Pounder. Kaimani, born February 26, 1976, to Anita Belnavis. Damien, born July 21, 1978, to Cindy Breakspear. Career. In February 1962, Marley recorded 4 songs, Judge Not, One Cup of Coffee, Do You Still Love Me, and Terror, at Federal Studios for local music producer Leslie Kong. 3 of the songs were released on Beverly's, with One Cup of Coffee being released under the pseudonym Bobby Martell. In 1963, Bob Marley, Bunny Wailer, Peter Tosh, Junior Braithwaite, Beverly Kelso, and Sherry Smith were called the Teenagers. They later changed the name to the Wailing Rude Boys, then to the Wailing Wailers, at which point they were discovered by record producer Coxsone Dodd, and finally to the Wailers. Their single Simmer Down for the Coxsone label became a Jamaican #1 in February 1964, selling an estimated 70,000 copies. The Wailers, now regularly recording for Studio One, found themselves working with established Jamaican musicians such as Ernest Ranglin, arranger It Hurts to Be Alone, the keyboardist Jackie Mitu, and saxophonist Roland Alfonso. By 1966, Braithwaite, Kelso, and Smith had left the Wailers, leaving the core trio of Bob Marley, Bunny Wailer, and Peter Tosh. In 1966, Marley married Rita Anderson and moved near his mother's residence in Wilmington, Delaware, in the United States for a short time, during which he worked as a DuPont lab assistant and on the assembly line and as a forklift operator at a Chrysler plant in nearby Newark, under the alias Donald Marley. Though raised Catholic, Marley became interested in Rastafari beliefs in the 1960s, when away from his mother's influence. After returning to Jamaica, Marley formally converted to Rastafari and began to grow dreadlocks. After a financial disagreement with Dodd, Marley and his band teamed up with Lee Scratch Perry and his studio band, The Upsetters. Although the alliance lasted less than a year, they recorded what many consider the Wailers' finest work. Marley and Perry split after a dispute regarding the assignment of recording rights, but they would continue to work together. 1969 brought another change to Jamaican popular music, where the beat slowed down even further. The new beat was a slow, steady, ticking rhythm that was first heard on the Maytals song, Do the Reggae. Marley approached producer Leslie Kong, who was regarded as one of the major developers of the reggae sound. For the recordings, Kong combined the Wailers with his studio musicians called Beverly's All-Stars, which consisted of bassists Lloyd Parks and Jackie Jackson, drummer Paul Douglas, keyboardists Gladstone Anderson and Winston Wright, and guitarists Rad Bryan, Lynn Tate, and Hux Brown. As David Moskowitz writes, the tracks recorded in this session illustrated the Wailers' earliest efforts in the new reggae style. Gone are the ska trumpets and saxophones of the earlier songs, with instrumental breaks now being played by the electric guitar. The songs recorded would be released as the album The Best of the Wailers, including tracks Soul Shakedown Party, Stop That Train, Caution, Go Tell It on the Mountain, Soon Come, Can't You See, Soul Captives, Cheer Up, Back Out, and Do It Twice. Between 1968 and 1972, Bob and Rita Marley, Peter Tosh, and Bunny Wailer recut some old tracks with JD Records in Kingston and London in an attempt to commercialize the Wailers' sound. Bunny later asserted that those songs should never be released on an album. They were just demos for record companies to listen to. In 1968, Bob and Rita visited songwriter Jimmy Norman at his apartment in the Bronx. Norman had written the extended lyrics for Time Is on My Side, recorded by Irma Thomas and the Rolling Stones, and had also written for Johnny Nash and Jimi Hendrix. A three-day jam session with Norman and others, including Norman's co-writer Al Pyfrom, resulted in a 24-minute tape of Marley performing several of his own and Norman Pyfrom's compositions. According to reggae archivist Roger Steffens, this tape is rare in that it was influenced by pop rather than reggae, as part of an effort to break Marley into the U.S. charts. According to an article in the New York Times, Marley experimented on the tape with various sounds, adopting a doo-wop style on Stay With Me, and the slow love song style of 1960s artists on Splish for My Splash. He lived in Ridgemount Gardens, Bloomsbury, during 1972.